Welcome to the Concierge CPA podcast. I have two special guests today. I have Mr. Hector Garcia and Alicia from Royal Wise, Alicia Pollock. And Alicia, this is a second time that she's visiting us as a guest, but they have something really, really cool that has recently come out that is killing it in our industry. And we wanted to talk all about it. And that's a new podcast, which is actually called the Unofficial Quickbooks Accountants Podcast. So welcome, Hector and Alicia. Give us a little bit about you if our listeners aren't familiar with you, and then let's dive into all about this podcast. Hector, you want to start?
Yes, I'll start. So I'm a CPA and I'm also a YouTuber. Like being a YouTuber is kind of a label that I carry with me everywhere I
Right.
go. I started creating YouTube videos about 8 years ago, and that's how I promote my business. That's how I promote my practice. Now, I've been a QuickBooks nerd for a very long time. Most of the YouTube videos I create are about QuickBooks. So naturally, talking about QuickBooks for so long, I wanted a platform where I can, instead of it being just me talking about my thoughts about QuickBooks, would be a place where I could brainstorm with somebody else about QuickBooks. And we end up doing that in conferences quite a bit, chatting about like what we love and hate about QuickBooks. Sometimes it's more hate than love,
Right.
unfortunately. But uh, but sometimes in that conversation of, hey, this is my point of view, this is the other person's point of view, you might realize that there are some interesting workarounds or different ways of doing things. So I always love nerding out with a fellow sort of advanced user in all things QuickBooks. And Alicia is a person that I've known for a very long time. I've always admired her teaching style. She's one of the best trainers in the industry. And naturally, her and I, after doing a lot of just sort of behind the scenes talking about QuickBooks, we thought, hey, why don't we just do a podcast? Why aren't these conversations, criticisms, things that we like, things that we could do differently about QuickBooks, even our feedback into it, like we're very cohesive in the way we think about these things. We're like, let's just do a podcast where we chat about this. And we came up with this idea of the podcast. We got together with Earmark so they can do CPE. So it's another podcast that you can listen to and get your CPE credits. Well, they're working on the CPE portion, but we will be part of the Earmark CPE. And every month we'll break down every new thing that came out in the Intuit world, in the QuickBooks world, new features, what's working, what's not working, what's broken, what could work, maybe possibly if they do what they said they're going to do. All those things we discuss and we break them down into like maybe 15 to 20-minute segments, and it's released weekly. And it's called the Unofficial QuickBooks Accountants Podcast because it is a high level. It's not for end users. It's for pro advisors, power users, advanced users, that sort of thing.
Awesome. Okay. And y'all have hit some pretty amazing numbers with these first few episodes. Alicia, you want to fill us in on that and then tell us a little bit more about you as well?
Sure. Well, so my name's Alicia Katz Pollock, and my company is royalwise.com. And I'm a top 50 women in accounting from Ignition this past year and a top 10 pro advisor from Insightful Accountant. And I have a master's in teaching, and I started off as a 7th grade English teacher, but my first love has always been computers. I was a computer geek from the time the first Apples came out when I was a teenager. And so I've always just loved training on software. And so it was Microsoft Office in the 90s and early 2000s. And then I became an Apple consultant doing iPhone and iPad and Mac training. And then my clients all started asking me about QuickBooks. And that kind of led me here. It was like, it's kind of backwards because most people are bookkeepers who start training people how to use QuickBooks, and I was a QuickBooks user who started training business owners. And so my platform at royalwise.com has this vast CPE authorized QuickBooks training library and an Apple training library and a Microsoft Office and Google library. And so what we do is help accounting firms outsource their training so that we can train both your staff and your employees, or your clients too, your staff, your employees, your clients. And then that way you don't have to spin your wheels recreating QuickBooks content. And this podcast was, I'm loving doing it. As Hector said, he and I have gotten together and brainstormed a lot in the past. And I remember one in particular, we were at an influencers event on the Intuit campus back in 2022. And we were sitting at the same table, and the exercise was to kind of make a fantasy list of all the things that you would like to do in your career. And then we had to sit and share with the other person. And Hector and I were teamed up on that, and our lists were like 75% the same.
Oh, wow. That's
And
amazing.
so, it was, we love just chatting together for hours about this little, what some people would consume little nitpicky things about software. But,
Sure. Yeah.
that's what entertains us. So we figured maybe it would entertain the world as well.
And apparently,
apparently it is, because we hit 2,000 listens within our first 2 episodes, maybe 3 episodes.
wow. And you were topping the charts, right?
We hit number 5 on one of the ones that that tracks the different categories. So in the business news category, we hit up to number 5. We've slid back down a little bit, but hey, I'll take number 5 as a badge of honor.
Super cool. Now, for aspiring podcasters and whatnot, was there a particular thing that you think got the word out, or just the fact that y'all have such a big influential reach to begin with? I mean, Hector says he's a YouTuber, but I mean, we're talking about, he's a huge YouTuber.
He's a platinum YouTuber.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, your social media platform that you build over the years, and everybody has a platform. Like, your platform could just be your profile and the 3 things that you post, in your lifetime, or it could be your purposeful, consistent posting about whatever it is. I have posted pretty much mostly about QuickBooks stuff. Like, maybe like during 2016, I posted one thing about politics, and maybe I shouldn't have, because but it wasn't the platform for that. Yeah. But for the most part, I talk about like accounting, the future of accounting, QuickBooks, integrated apps, how to do things quicker and faster in accounting. And of course, the crowd that I was building over time were people that loved QuickBooks and nerding out about QuickBooks. And naturally, after so many years of building a followership that sort of know and like the stuff that I put out, it was just easy to say, hey, by the way, now we have audio only format, so if you want to listen to it while you walk, or in the car, on your commute, or whatever, there's something that's different, because YouTubing or making videos in YouTube, it's a different format, because when you're creating the content, you have your cursor and you have the button, and you can say, press here, press here, press here. That doesn't make for really good podcasts. Like, what do you mean press here? I'm just listening. So like, you have to kind of change your, I guess, your approach to teaching or explaining something, because you have to, with your words, you have to sort of like getting people to imagine what the screen looks like with your words, right? Whereas with a video, you always have that visual element. So it is different. It is more challenging, believe it or not, even though it's less, it's easier from a content creation platform, right? You open up Zoom, you talk, you record, maybe you do some light processing to make it sound better. You publish. I mean, publishing a podcast is a relatively easy thing. Publishing a good podcast, not so much, right? Because you have to remember, this is the theater of the mind, right? So you have to remember, like, what's the other person going to feel like when you assume that they know what a button looks like, or what, just click on the button really quick and move forward. When you say something like that, that's not really going to work too well. So you do have to learn a little bit of, like, you almost have to listen to your own podcast back and try to imagine yourself, not being the one that created the podcast. And did I really understand what I was trying to say? So.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
For me, it's been really liberating that instead of having to say, okay, now click on the look for the plus new button in the upper left-hand corner and click on it. Now I can just talk about stuff, and it's more of an editorial approach than a training approach. And I definitely like it.
Yeah, that is really different. So especially with your teaching background, I bet there's a lot of listeners out there that are saying, my staff, my team, I can't teach them squat. Is there a particular method that you found super effective that accountants should probably be using out there with their own teams?
Well, it's one of the things that video lends to it is that you can speed it up, you can slow it down, you can stop and re-watch over and over again. And
Mhm.
in an accounting firm, you don't have time to sit and create training materials because then now you've got two people whose time is taken up. And then the software changes so often that you have to, you could record something and then a year later it's completely obsolete. And so for accounting firms, the struggle is real because training never happens one time. Everything that you teach has to be repeated until it finally sets in. I mean, occasionally you get that one employee that you tell them something once and they've got it, but that's really rare. And it's not the fault of the employee. That's the way human brains learn. And so you need the repetition, you need the practice, you need multi-channel.
Mhm.
I do kind of have an opinion on this because I do have a team that I teach and consistently trying to, even myself trying to remember, did I teach that person that already? Like, should I be a little harsher on this like third or fourth time they're asking me about the
Right.
same thing? So just going back for a second, when I used to teach on site, when I used to like physically go to companies and sit next to the owner and teach them how to do things in QuickBooks Desktop, which is kind of my roots. That print screen button on the PC and then pasting it on a Word file, then printing the screen, physically printing the screenshot, which is a very common task. So what I end up doing is I show somebody how to do something on the screen, and then I will go back and say, okay, once you got it, yeah, you got it. Okay, let's delete it. I'm going to do it over again. And every single step, I'm going to take a screenshot and then I'm going to print it. And then you're going to write your own notes to interpret what this screen meant, right? And then we're going to put it on a little, staple it, put it in a little folder. And this is the Hector training folder. So at least this specific task, whatever it was, purchase to bill receiving workflow or inventory adjustment workflow, whatever it is, that particular task is set in stone in this particular printed document. Now that's obviously so 2010. I get it. Nowadays we have apps like Scribe, which are incredible, which you can
Right.
basically turn on Scribe on your Chrome browser, your Edge browser, and then you click record and you start clicking things. It doesn't record the audio, but it takes an automatic screenshot of every single action that you take. And you don't even have to print it. It automatically publishes it to either a private or a public sort of like website. And then you can record, it's got timestamps and everything. So you could essentially have a permanent record of everything you teach someone in QuickBooks, for example, by turning on an app like Scribe during that particular moment. And then with Zoom, I found it that when my employees ask me to teach them how to do something, even if I happen to be at the office, I try to say, you know what, let's do it via Zoom. That way, I physically record it. And then what happens is when you print a little manual, or when you have a scribe, or when you have the Zoom recording, it lets the other person know, and it makes it pretty obvious that, hey, we already went through this process. We already taught you how to do this. So like it should be pretty embarrassing to all parties to bring it out and ask another question. That puts the onus back on the person that's learning, because learning is not a one-time thing. Learning is learning how to do it, trying it, repeating it, trying it, repeating it, breaking it, and then going back to your mentor, whoever was teaching you, go, hey, I tried this in this particular case and it didn't work quite as well because it wasn't perfect scenario, whatever happens to be. What would you do in this situation? So that way you don't get frustrated as a trainer that, is this person asking me the same question again? So leaving that permanent record of that thing that you taught is incredibly valuable, and it makes both parties, the person that's teaching and the person that's learning, just more at least makes them both feel like there was a purpose to the training and the learning experience.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny you say 2010 because that's when I first started my own firm, but I also started working for CCH on the side, and I would go and train accounting firms on the CCH tax products. And Adobe was like the thing to train on. I think people still need Adobe training, which is crazy, but like it was so simple, but like doing workshop style and making them actually click the buttons themselves was so imperative when it came to the workshops. And I'm thinking maybe I need to go back more to that in my tax planning opportunities now, because I try to like oversimplify it and think, oh, everyone knows all these basics, but you really have to always start with the basics, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I also created my click by click series. We call it the hands-on training. And so I have books that are published through QuestivaConsultants.com for QBO, and we're actually about to publish one for desktop, and 600 pages of click by click and step by
in
step.
there.
And because some people do need that type of training, not just talking about the feature, but literally what goes in every box and what is each box for.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. So switching gears a little bit, I'm curious, how gossipy do y'all get on this new podcast versus, you say you can talk a little more theory versus click, click, click. I know like Jason Statch just came out with a new thing about how Intuit's reframing how they're working with accountants. We're always talking about that, right? Have y'all dug into that at all?
Oh yeah. So we have an episode coming up probably in the next maybe synced up with the release of this episode, where we talk about Intuit Assist, basically our first impressions of Intuit Assist. It's kind gossipy might not be the right word, but essentially is more speculative because on September 6th, Intuit comes out with this big announcement that says, hey, this is how Intuit will transform as a business. We will use generative AI, and we will be fundamentally, this incredible force on the world that's going to help small businesses automate everything, right? Everything they can think of will be automated. Well, the challenge with that particular announcement that it was more client focused than accountant focused. As a matter of fact, the word accountant didn't show up anywhere in that 42-minute video. It was a live event, but it was pre-recorded video. So the word accountant didn't come out. They used the word expert, but it's always within the context of an Intuit employee. So as an accountant, you think, is Intuit trying to like sort of Uberize this thing, where like if you want to be an expert, you have to go through them or something like that, or do they want to take over? Take over maybe not the right word, but do they want some market share in the small business accounting consulting space, and whether they say it out loud or don't say it out loud, essentially creating products that automate the services that other humans, small business consultants, small business accountants used to do, essentially does that. So whether you're searching for that or not, is essentially going to do that. And Intuit could fundamentally be an incredible software company that's forward-looking and trying to automate all the tasks to allow the small businesses to focus on doing what they do and create value in the world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That can inadvertently destroy the entire accounting profession. Now, does that make them evil? Well, I depending on what perspective you see, right? So one person's hero is another person's freedom fighter. So you have to look. You can look at it in either case. Like if you're a small business, like if you're a small business owner and you're tired of like almost never being able to talk to your accountant because they're always so busy, or tired of like going to the bank to ask for a loan and it takes you 3 weeks to get the financial statements from the accountants, or you're tired of getting a gazillion emails from the accountants asking you a million questions, then the value proposition of, hey, the software is going to take over some of those really tedious tasks. And there will be accountants out there that you can always ask for advice if you need. We're not going to they're not going to disappear. But the core of that work that you used to depend on another human being accountant is going to happen automatically. And by the way, it's only going to be a couple $100, not a couple $1,000. I mean, that's a good value proposition for a small business owner, I think. So that's what Intuit is doing. They're coming out with this value proposition. It's great for investors. It's great for the marketplace. It's great for people that want to see Intuit dominance in the software world. But for accountants, we're not sure what that means. And I'm sure that in QuickBooks Connect coming in November, there might be some big announcement where it'll like curtail this entire speculation. But this is the type of stuff that we talk about on the podcast. Alicia, what do you think?
Well, for me, it's really important to give Intuit the benefit of the doubt because they are always going to be innovators. That's what they pride themselves on doing. And so I always want to start with where's the benefit? How is this going to transform things? And then offer constructive criticism for the things that they might not have their eye on. Have their eye on the ball with some of the things that they're doing. And so I consider it kind of a role of both a cheerleader and a critical thinker, where we have an opportunity to take everything that Intuit is up to and reframe it so that we can really move it forward powerfully in the industry and make some changes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, honestly, like since I was on the Intuit Tax Council and then Brad Smith left like shortly after, the whole vibe has totally changed, and they've been kind of warning us of this new direction, whether we liked it or not, right? So it will be interesting what they do say at QuickBooks Connect about it. I've kind of run into a similar issue, so to speak, when it comes to, you know, the tax plan IQ and the tax advisory software workspace. I was always like, oh, I never want to replace the accountant. I value the accountant. I value the advisor. I just want to make them look amazing. Well, unfortunately, we are so bombarded with crap work that we don't have enough tax advisors out there. We don't have enough people that have the expertise. And so I don't have enough people coming into Tax Plan IQ saying, I already know how to do all this stuff, so let's just make this software make it easier, right? And so as you're innovating for that, like we just added Jane, this chat GPT assistant, I'm always thinking, I never want to replace the advisor, but if the accounting industry can't keep up, you got to keep moving forward, right? And so you're always bridging this gap, and it's crazy because obviously as an advisor and accountant, I value what we do, but our roles are going to change drastically, and it's exciting and scary all at the same time because it's been so long coming, right?
Right. I mean, I think we're in a time that's almost like a perfect storm because we've got AI coming to take our jobs, but then we also have an industry where we don't have enough people. That the retirement rate is higher than the replacement rate, and so we need AI. Like the whole country can collapse if we don't have people doing the books and controlling for taxes and doing audit. So we have to have AI in order to solve these problems. The thing that we all have to really make sure that we as human beings are controlling it so that it is really fostering what we're doing. That, you know, there are going to be certain tasks that are going to be replaced, like data entry, but like if you find yourself personally sourced and fulfilled by data entry, then you will have a role for it, but most people don't fit that category.
Right. The important point here is that you know, markets evolve, people evolve, technology evolves, customer perception evolves. I read somewhere, it was kind of fascinating concept, is 100 years ago, if you had a car, you were seen as a rich person. If you had a horse, you were a poor person. Today, if you have a horse, you're a rich person. So, so it's one of those. So it's one of those things that I think, like, if you actually put it in that context, you're like, okay. So right now, a small business owner having access to AI, maybe it's a rich business owner, possibly, because getting good AI is difficult. You have to get a lot of consultants involved. Like, for example, this Jane chatbot that you built, it wasn't like you clicked on 3 things and it just happened. There was a lot of just sort of human knowledge and aggregation of data and teaching it and beta testing. So like businesses that have for businesses to have access to good AI, good functional useful AI, it's a pretty big investment, right? So you're like a rich business if you can do that. There will be a point in time where it will be the opposite. It would be like AI, everybody has AI. A rich business has a human advisor. So I think it will flip at some point, you know, where like you have to let the market go through you know, this like shiny new object. Okay, what does AI look like for me in all aspects of their life? Okay, like not just accounting, but in all aspects of their life, AI will have something to do. And it'll get a point in time where all the AI essentially will be the same, because AI is essentially a mathematical average of multiple things. And it'll get to a point where AI becomes a baseline, just like cloud accounting is a baseline, or having online banking in your bank, it's a baseline. Like, just like there's just certain things that are just a baseline, like, you know, any software company having an app version for your phone, that's a baseline. Like, we're really, like 10 years ago, it was an amazing cool thing to have a phone app on your phone. Now it's like, it's just table stakes. So like once all the AI goes through baseline, it just becomes software. It's no longer AI, it's just software, right? Because what's AI but a bunch of nested if statements, right? And that's a nerdy one for you Excel people, right? So AI is essentially a bunch. AI is essentially a bunch of preconditions built in, right? So once AI is no longer the shiny object and it's just software, and then yes, software elevates everything, and then what people used to do manually won't happen anymore. Then the consumers are going to go back and going, okay, where's that cherry on top, that human element? Where's the rich person's horse now? So I can seek out for that. So as an accounting profession, we're gonna take some punches, okay, because we're gonna go through transitions. And I strongly believe like there's two ways we can mitigate those punches. One is staying creative forever. Like always think of yourself as a creative being, because being creative and unpredictable and surprising is the only thing that makes you different from a bot. The only thing will make you different from a bot. Okay. And the second thing is to transform your business model. Like you can't compete with the AI with the current business model. Like you have to think of different and creative ways to serve your customers, different and creative ways to charge for your services, different and creative ways to guarantee results for your services, and customers will be attracted to that. So with these two things in mind, like we stay human by being creative, and we stay innovative by consistently changing and disrupting our own business model. I think we can survive this, and then we'll come out through the ones that stay, that remain, right, that took all the punches, will come out on the other side in much better shape, again, because we will be that gravy, that cherry on top. Like that human element will be very, very valuable once people are done with AI, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I keep coming back to this, and my listeners have heard this probably a billion times now, but I just can't stop saying it. Like at the AI CPA, like a thought leader thing at Engage this summer, the leader said, the accounting firm that will get replaced by AI is the one not using AI, right? So like we have to figure out the best way to utilize it and utilize it most efficiently. Every day I'm finding new tools. Like yesterday, I added a plugin to ChatGPT 4 that's called Doc Maker, and it will take an entire document, file, report, consulting report, or whatever you have, and pop it all into a PowerPoint presentation for you. It's freaking amazing. It saved me like 8 hours of work, right? So it's all about just staying on top of that stuff. And I know that y'all are definitely specifically doing that around the QuickBooks arena with this podcast. So that's awesome. Let's switch gears real fast, because I know, Hector, you have another upcoming appointment. So I want to talk about a couple of things with you, and then we're going to circle back with Alicia on what's going on with her. So Hector, you have a brand new conference that is hitting this year, right? Tell us about it.
Yes, it will be in just a couple of weeks in Miami, October 25th to the 27th. At this point, maybe some of you might already, but that date already might have passed by the time you're listening to this. And it's a conference called Creative Business Models for Accountants. I invited my friend Ron Baker, and which most people know as the grandfather of value pricing for the accounting profession, and now soon to be the godfather of a subscription business model for professionals. And my other friend Chris Doe, who's a YouTuber, graphic designer, had nothing to do with accounting, to bring this sort of creative perspective side. So I'm trying to like sort of merge these two worlds, the ultra left brain and the ultra right brain. And it'll be a workshop format where people will do what I'm calling mind crafting. My sons love the name. Mind crafting is something I'm trying to coin, a trademark, trying to coin, which is sort of like purposeful, communal driven brainstorming, right? So it means like building something together with your mind. So we're going to be doing mind crafting around what these business models could look like. We'll use examples like, hey, what would it look like if Disney were to open an accounting firm? What would it look like if Rolex were to open an accounting firm? What would it look like if Walmart were to open an accounting firm, or Nike? Just pick any brand that has any meaning to you, and then think about the elements of the brand and how they would play with that in order to offer accounting services. That way, like you come in completely out of left field thinking about what an accounting firm could be by using elements of a completely unrelated brand. And we're going to be using things like, hey, subscribe to this cup of water. Like, what would that look like? Like if you were tasked with creating a business model around people need to subscribe to, you're not going to sell this for $1 anymore. People have to subscribe to it. What else would you sell? So I'm no longer selling the cup of water. I'm selling the drink. I'm selling hydration. I'm selling the refreshment. I'm selling freshness. So like when you think abstractly about the product that you have people subscribe to, then you start thinking creatively around all the things you can bundle around that one service. So I really want to get people just out of out of that mindset where, hey, in order to combat AI, we just have to reinvent our business models to be slightly better than the old one, right? Like this whole movement to like get slightly better than how we were before, which we've done for 100 years, and we've been very successful at it, which I completely understand why accountants are apprehensive to change it because it's worked. It's not going to work when AI comes along. Like with truly, let's forget AI. When software companies completely automate the stuff that we're charging for today, forget AI. When this happens, you have to reinvent yourself and you have to reframe what is it that you're selling. You cannot sell bookkeeping anymore. You cannot sell accounting services anymore. You cannot sell coding transactions anymore. You have to sell what we call in our firm confidence in your numbers. And if you are tasked to build a business around selling confidence in your numbers, that's completely different than selling accounting services. And then you start really thinking creative around what are all the things that we need to do as a firm, all the employees of the firm with all the knowledge that we have, all the experience, all the tools, all the expertise. What do we need to provide to customers in order to guarantee that they're going to have confidence in their numbers? So when you reframe it from a service to a result, to a transformation, it completely changes like sort of your focus on how you think about offering services. So that's the idea. Right? So we can Minecraft around these concepts, and then hopefully people walk out with an entire different point of view of what the firm could be for 2024 or years beyond that. And that's basically the conference. So that's like occupying half of my mind. The other half of my mind, because I finally sold my tax practice, Jackie, so you won't be too happy about that. I can't buy your product anymore, but I finally sold my tax practice. So the other side of my mind is focused around an app that I developed last year, which is
Yeah, I forgot to ask you about that. Tell
yeah.
us more about that. How's it going?
It's going great. We have over 7,000 downloads in the Chrome web extension store. So basically, we have a free version of the app you can download for free. You literally just type "right tool" two T's, "right tool" all together in Google, and it'll get you straight to the Google Web Store. You install it into your browser, and immediately, the minute you open QuickBooks Online, you're going to see a brand new thing on the right-hand side. It opens up. It's a little collapsible right navigation bar, and it's aimed to transform how you approach navigating QuickBooks Online. And this free version is both for accountants and end users. And we have a lot of really interesting features. Like for example, when you're in banking, we add a little button that says Google Memo. So imagine yourself, instead of copying and pasting the memo that was downloaded from the bank from some obscure company or restaurant or whatever, came through bank feeds, and then opening a new tab and searching it in Google and cleaning out like maybe some of the garbage from the text to try to like refine the search, to then try to figure out and triangulate what that expense category might be, and then go back to QuickBooks and categorize it. We just have one button that opens it up in a new browser, half the window, so you in smaller font, so you can just quickly research what you want to research, close it, and then do your categorization. So it's little tiny things like that we add to the navigation that I think is bringing a lot of delight to the users. And then we have a paid pro version for accounting firms that does batch deleting and batch editing, and it just batches like all these things that we want to fix sort of in batch. Like the deleting stuff has been super popular for some reason. As accountants, we really value the ability to delete our customers' crap more than anything else. So we spend so much time deleting stuff. So we added a lot of deleting stuff into the pro version of Right Tool. So that's like my mind is occupied in these two things: my software company and the conference in Miami.
That's awesome. So pretty much to sum it up with Right Tools, what I got from, reading on the website and stuff, plus what you're saying, it's pretty much all the crap we've been asking into it for, all the little features we've been asking into it for years and years that they never got around to, that really like expedite your work, right?
I wouldn't say all, because my wish list is a lot longer than that.
Well, yeah. And then there's so many directions you could go with it. It's so hard I'm sure you get a lot of people that suggest things like, oh, you could do industry benchmarking here. You could do all these other things with this data, right? Like there's so many directions to go. What are your thoughts on the future with the product?
Yeah. So what makes our software fundamentally different than the average app, and Jackie, you built an app, so you understand the concept, is that Intuit gives you what's called an API, which is sort of like the doors to the database. It says, okay, these are all the doors you can open, and inside these doors, some you can only extract, some you can only read, some you can edit, some you can write into. Okay, so when you work with the API, you're limited to whatever QuickBooks gives you. That's a good thing, and that's a bad thing. From security purposes, that's a great thing for Intuit, because Intuit wants to safeguard certain pieces of data. We don't use the API. We went totally rogue on this one. Instead of using the API, since we use a Chrome extension, what we do is we manipulate the screen. Okay. So we change what the screen looks like by adding a button, removing a button, making something bigger. Like, for example, the average size of a drop-down menu for an account when you're going to select an account category in banking or your register, it's about 25% of the screen. But the reality is many chart of accounts have accounts, sub-accounts, and if you can't read that entire account in that. So essentially all we did is change the HTML. So instead of 25% of the screen, 50% of the screen. I mean, brilliant, geniuses. Okay. So, but we do little things like that where we fundamentally change the screen to make it easier, more accessible to use for the user. And we add buttons where buttons should be, and we make buttons bigger, we make buttons smaller. We make buttons work differently. Like in some cases, like you press a button to open up a new report, and we override it so it opens a new report on a new tab. That way, when you are drilling down on a report, you don't lose your place in the order when you're scrolling down. So every time you drill down, you open a new tab. So when you're done doing that, you can close that and you go back to the original report you were in, whether it's a summary or a detail or whatever, and you're exactly where you were. Because most of us, we go down reports and we explore transactions. We kind of do a mini audit of transaction one by one. And then if you use regular QBO to do that, when you go back, it resets back to the top and it drives people freaking bonkers. So what we can do is limited to what the screen can do. Like, we can do more things, right? But we make the screen behaves in a more human fashion. That's exactly what it does. So like adding benchmarks and stuff like that, that would be all external API stuff. We wouldn't even get into that.
Yeah, interesting. Wow. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't think about it like that, but yeah, I mean, that's the only way that you could really work around a lot of those limitations. I thought maybe you had a special hookup over there.
No special hookup. I wish.
Cool. All right. So Hector, before you hop off, what's the best way for people to chat with you or watch your content or get in touch?
Yeah. So Hector Garcia CPA, if you search that in YouTube, you should be able to find my channel. It has over 200,000 subscribers. So that's how you know it's me. If you search me in Facebook, Hector Garcia CPA as well, I should be pretty accessible. I don't use the other stuff, Instagram and TikTok. I have accounts, but I generally don't use it. YouTube and Facebook is kind of my world. To learn about my conference, you go to altaccountant.com, altaccountant.com. Think about the alternate version of what accountants are today. So altaccountant.com. And to check out the app, you go to writetool.app.
Awesome. And then you also recently started a AI specific group on Facebook. What's that one called?
Yeah. So if you search AI, ChatGPT and AI for accountants, there's already over 10,000 members there. It's not very active. There's a lot of people like trying to post spam and stuff like that. We get rid of them, but every once in a while there'll be like a really good question about, hey, would you use ChatGPT for this or that? Or like, I try to use ChatGPT to process this financial statement or analyze it. What are your thoughts? And then some people that have been using ChatGPT and other AI tools start chiming in, and that's kind of like what we want the chat to be about. It's about, hey, what does it look like in a world where accountants and AI are working together, and what does that look like in a technical level? That's kind of what that Facebook group is aiming to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it, because I tried to kind of start some discussions around this high level in the Accounting Firm Influencer Facebook group, and it's so specific about people that really want to talk about this or that are using it. It would just kind of bombed. So I'm glad that there's this kind of one place we can all go. Anything else that you want to say before you hop off, Hector?
No, that's it. Thank you very much for having me. I love your podcast.
Yeah.
I love your app. The tax planning app is amazing. And yeah, hope you have a great ending of the conversation with Alicia. Thank you, everybody.
All right. See ya. Bye. All right, Alicia, let's talk about you. So you got a couple things going on too. Well, all this stuff. You've got a book release. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so in this grand irony about everything happening with QuickBooks Online, one of the things that happened behind the scenes is that Intuit stopped their Intuit education program for QuickBooks Desktop. So students who were in college programs and high school programs can't learn desktop anymore. They just cut the program. So we had back in 2021 completely revamped the old textbook from the Sleater Group, which was bought by Questiva Consultants. And that was one of the textbooks that was used in a lot of different schools. And so we had this book, like, okay, now we've invested all this time and all this work into this book, and now we can't use it for anything. So I just got the rights to it from Questiva Consultants and republished it. And my team put my face on the cover, which is kind of freaking me out, honestly. But it's going up on Amazon probably by the time people hear this, it will be up on Amazon. And so it's one of the very few detailed ways of learning desktop now. And then in conjunction with it, I put a course up on my website where I'm actually demonstrating and actually teaching the course as if it was a college class, where I'm the instructor. You come to class, you watch the videos, you do the book along with it, and then there's homework assignments. And so for somebody who doesn't even just want just the clicking along, they actually have all of those extra support resources, and it gives CPE credit as well.
Awesome. Okay, very cool. Yeah. So what's really fun about RoyalWise stuff, and also daunting to me, is the fact that you not only train accounting firms, but you train business owners directly. And we have a course coming up together on your platform in regards to kind of finding tax treasures on the financial statements, P&L and whatnot. And I'm feeling a little overwhelmed the fact that there might be other than accounting firm accounting firm people in that class. Because it's such a different realm to me, but it seems like you pull it together really well.
Well, I've found that for the most part, the information is agnostic to the role that you're playing. I mean, learning to read a P&L is just as important to the business owner as it is to the tax professional or the bookkeeper. And so in all of my RoyalWise content, I've kind of made it fairly just, here's the information. And then the context of what you're going to do with it. Sometimes they'll say, oh, and if you're a business owner, then this, and if you're a bookkeeper, this. But what I'm looking forward to in your class with us is being able to analyze with tax planning in mind. And so everybody needs that, whether you're coming at it from advisory or whether you're coming at it from wanting to get the most bang for your buck from your business and your own financing. And so I have complete confidence that no matter how we present the information, it's going to be able to be absorbed by both of them. And this topic in particular was one that my business owners have been asking for, and the bookkeepers that, well, how do my taxes how does my profit and loss and my balance sheet turn into my taxes? How do they map? If I want to reduce my tax liability, where in my business am I going to look? And so I'm really excited that you agreed to do this class with us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Okay, yeah, I've got today all afternoon dedicated to wrapping up that presentation.
Excellent.
Okay, so tell everyone the name of the book specifically that they can find on Amazon.
Sure. So it's called QuickBooks Desktop Hands-On Training, and the course is the same name on RoyalWise. So if you search for hands-on training, you'll find it. And so it will be up on Amazon by the end of this week, which means everybody watching this, it's already.
Awesome. Yeah. So you've got a book, you've got a podcast, you've got all this training stuff going on. What's next for you?
Well, AI has completely transformed all of the opportunities for my business. And one of the projects that we have been putting into place over the last year that we are going gonzo for, and I'm talking to all of you tax firms out there is, earlier in the podcast, we were talking about training and training requirements and how hard it is for accounting firms to provide training for their staff. Well, at RoyalWise, we just took our learning management system and found a way to leverage it to create organizational portals for firms. So a accounting firm can now create their own custom branded portal powered by RoyalWise. So it has all of my classes, and if you want the Apple classes too, and the business classes also, and then you set up your own training portal. You add in your employees, you pick which classes you want them to take. They get the CPE credit for participating, and you can even offer it up to your business owner. So it's a value added service. You can charge them an extra $100 a month or $150 a month, and then give them these classes, and then just build it into your fees. So it's a win-win for everybody. So we're really excited about the opportunity that it's going to provide people.
Yeah. Is that already available, or is that coming up? Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah, we have several firms already using it, and we're looking for thorough market penetration on it, because if you think about the lost productivity that every firm is using to create the same trainings, because it's the same software for their same employees internally, or for their employees and their clients, or their correcting the same errors for all their clients. So why not train the clients? And so if you think about every single accounting firm who's doing the exact same training for the exact same roles, they have to generate their own training. It's their own staff time. It's their own content. Why do the same thing over and over and over again? Use somebody else's. It's cheaper to just come over and leverage the resources that we already have in place than it is to produce it and reproduce it yourself. And so, I have a master's in teaching. It's CPE authorized, so that it's not just some YouTuber up on YouTube creating the content. You've actually got some really valid educational content that's always up to date.
Okay, awesome. And so that's all at royalwise.com. They can find all of those resources.
Yes.
Very cool. Okay, really neat. All right, so we're coming up to the top of the hour, so we're gonna have to close out. But Alicia, anything else that you want our listeners to know about before we do?
Yeah, I mean, all this talk about AI, for me, one of the things that it is an opportunity, especially as a content producer, that we make our videos and publish them up on YouTube or publish them on our own channel. But we are really looking forward to finding ways of taking that same content and bringing it out into the world in other ways. We're going to expand our Amazon print publishing, because print is not dead. People like having a book in their hands. We are looking at translating our content into Spanish in 2024, and right now researching what's the best, most appropriate way to do that. And so RoyalWise we've been doing this now for 12 years, but I feel like we're just beginning. My staff is like, oh my God, we're so overwhelmed by all these ideas, but we're having such a good time doing it. I mean, I've got one employee who is just researching AI and finding all the different tools that we can use to get more information out to more people more efficiently.
Wow. Oh, that's so cool. I wish I could be a fly on the wall of that, but try to keep Hector's AI Facebook group updated so that I can see.
Sure will.
Okay, cool. Well, it was so great catching up with y'all. Congratulations on the success of the new podcast show. That is just so amazing and wonderful, and y'all deserve nothing but that success. And how can people contact you, Alicia, if they want more info?
Yeah. So first of all, the podcast is the Unofficial Quickbooks Accountants podcast, and you can find it wherever you go to get your podcasts. My website is royalwise.com, or if you want to hop right into our learning portals, it's learn.royalwise.com.
Okay.
I have a group on Facebook called Training for QuickBooks Users, and that's a place actually for all QuickBooks educators to post their trainings.
Cool.
And look up my name on Amazon, Alicia Katz Pollock, Pollock, and then you can see all the different books that we have available.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you again for being here today. Really appreciate y'all, and much success to you. All right.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Jackie. I love being here.
Of course. Take care. Bye.
Bye.